So today we're going to tap into uh code and what that means, living by a code and kind of like defining yourself before things happen. How important that is, why it's relevant. So the thing about it is most people don't lack discipline because of because they don't want to, right? People want to kind of control themselves. Believe me, they want to be in more control of themselves. Even people that we see and we be like, yo, you're out of control. They want to have more control. But there's a few reasons why that's not the case. First of all, a commitment, discipline, right? So you have to be committed to that in the first place. You got to be committed to creating something new, to creating, a new version of yourself. Otherwise, you definitely keep repeating the same things. So why a code is important there? Because for the most part, if you don't have a defined code, you're going to be super reactionary. You're going to respond emotionally way more than you respond from what you're thinking and your principles and your intellect, right? And this is what you really want to use when you responding to things because especially once you reach a certain age, 'cause there's no, you're held accountable for what you say and held accountable for what you do. And that's just that. So a code comes into play in a major way in regards to that. What aspects of life do you need a code, right? What is a code? So a code is you predetermining how you're going to respond and how you're going to react, either how you're going to react or respond in different situations, right? And so where we struggle at and where I struggled at for a good majority of my life is having discipline or having a code, a standard in certain aspects of my life and then not having it in other aspects. Sometimes those emotional reactions were they worked out, right? It don't mean it was the best thing to do or that it was a good thing to do. It just worked out. But most of the times I ended up either saying what I didn't mean or doing something that I didn't want to do at that time or the way that I did it. And like I was just telling you earlier, there's no do-overs, right? So once you're a certain age in life, that's it. You help, that's it. So, and I found myself in situations more often than not where I was explaining myself, right? Where I'm having to go into detail way more than I would like. And so this, when I sat back to really understand why that was, I had to accept the fact that my word wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Only in certain aspects, people knew for sure that I was going to do something. And then for the most part, in other aspects, it's like, well, we'll see. Because, you say this, but we'll see. Right. And so that's like, oh man, I'm that guy. And when I identified it initially, I definitely went on my, like I'm changing it up. So, you start changing things and creating new versions. But what happens without the code is it fluctuates. So then I started to realize how if I was feeling good, I'm going to be on my code. I'm going to be doing what I say I want to do. But if I'm not feeling good, right, and not sick as in sickness, but sick in head, a disease where I'm emotionally distraught about something, whether it's through anger, love, too much happiness, overexciting, looking too far ahead, whatever the case, right? When it was those situations, my discipline disappeared. See, and so I noticed and realized that in different stages of my life, from 18 to now, those things showed up where I could see where I made a very disciplined, principled choice in regards to what I feel, and then where I did not. And I had to either explain it or I regret it, wish I could do it over. See? And so I started to see how the wish I could do it over pile was getting too high. See? My principal choices was here, but my wish I could do it over was like, say, oh no. And so now it's like, well, what type of life you living here? See, you got too many masks on here, right? You're wearing too many masks because what I'm talking to you about in regards to the code and a certain type of integrity is not a piety thing. It's not about righteousness. See, you do what you want to do. This is just about you being who you say you are and having your actions align with your words, whatever it may be. This is what I'm talking about because I'm a person that's lived in that type of ambiguity, and it creates more disease than not, man, because the choices fluctuate because they all be emotional. So when I find where I'm living by a certain principle or something like that, I could see where I move. This matches up with what I want to do. Then I look over here. I'll be like, well, why the hell? Why did I do that? Like, what was I doing over there? You know what I mean? Like, why did that make sense? Like, fuck, I was hanging around at that time. You know what I mean? For that to be, because it doesn't just don't align with what I'm thinking I'm about in real life. And so I said, damn, I got to get serious about this. And so what I started to do after many disappointments, many trials and errors, you know what I'm saying? Relationships, all different aspects, not just women, but like family, children, business relationships. I could see all this fluctuation. I could see where I got major standards here and different stabilities here, but mad instabilities within the same stability, right? So a person can get some stability from me in regards to this, that, and that. But when it comes to these other things, they don't know what they're gonna get. See? And you can't live like that. You can't build like that. And that's why I see why most of the things that I had accomplished didn't last long. See what I'm saying? Like there was great burst, because I'm a smart guy and I'm good with math, you know what I'm saying? And I'm good with people. So I'm always able to produce, and generate all kind of lump sums. But they dissipate different things for different reasons at different stages in my life. I'm seeing it. And I wrote it down. That was my next point, getting to that. Like you gotta write this stuff down. Once you start writing it down, you can see it on paper and you can see how it starts to add up and weigh out. See what I mean? It's a game changer, believe me. Because what I also realized writing all those things down is it was clear that I was not moving the way that I wanted to move. I'm just fortunate to have certain success and certain things work out because I did a lot of things that's contrary to what I really believe, as a man. Like, just like standing on it here, looking at you guys talking to y'all right now, like, oh shit, I did that. That's outrageous. I can't even justify it other than like, um, more than lack of control, but like you'd be possessed with the emotion, whatever it was, whether it was lust, rage, anger, passion. See? So this where the standard had to kick in now. Say, okay, gotta have a standard. And when I'm talking to you about a standard, I'm not talking to you about a standard like I'm not messing with nobody that got kids, like that type of stuff. Like that's on you and your choice, right? But that's another level. I'm talking about a standard of existence. See, this is where I was, you know, this aspect, every aspect. You listen to women and you listen to men, they talk about certain relationships and they're gonna tell you, you know, they keep getting certain type of people. Why do you think that is? People keep doing you wrong. Why do you think that is? What do you think You think it's everybody else or you think it's you? Because what's always going to be easy is to say everybody else got the problem. See, because I'm nice. I do this. I don't want to hurt nobody. I just want to do this. I just want to do that. Da, da, da. When you start pulling the mask and layers off of that, you start to see that a lot of that you do for your own selfish reasons. You may be trying to buy friends all along. See? All that kindness may have just been to keep people around you because you got a problem with abandonment and loneliness. See, this could be why you in the bed with a man right now because you got abandonment issues. You may not even love this guy or this guy, or you might not even love this woman. Believe me, when somebody walk in that room and you see him, there's a yearning, there's a need and a want, there's an excitement. And I'm not saying like every time, because sometimes we have little agitations, but I'm talking about for the most part. Because without that, it's just caring for a person. This is just saying like, well, I don't want nothing to happen to her. Or I don't want nothing to happen to him. Like, that's not being in love, just so we're clear. But anyway, and again, all plays back to the standard, right? So this is why I had to start writing my shit down, because in my thoughts, as I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. Believe it or not, because of how life is and it presents so many different moments and different choices and decisions throughout the day, I'm then forgot I ain't doing that no more. Like I forgot I said I wasn't going to do that. And let me tell you something about the universe. So whatever your understanding is in regards to high power, it's a tricky thing when you say you're not going to do something like this, or you say, well, I only do it if it's this, or I won't do it if it's that. When you do it, contrary to whatever you said, doomed. That's the thing about making statements about what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. So be mindful of that. Now, that standard, it's in general. So once you start defining your standard, now you start seeing who you really are. See, because you got to separate it. You can't write it like you got to write it in a way like almost like it's going to be a blank sheet, but you got to blank sheet your mind. See, you can't write it based off your training and based off your wounds and based off all these rituals and different ways, things that's not entered you, from how you've been raised and all this kind of stuff. You got to just look at it from a what I want. And now that's where you're going to find a tricky conundrum when you start talking about what you want, because you're going to notice it's going to be easier to say what you don't want. Somebody taught me that lesson, that, you be really in tune with what you don't want and then can't really articulate what you do want. Say, what do you want? You say, well, I don't want this. No, I know what you don't want, right? But what do you want? Again, back to that standard, man. This is a whole code of living and just a way that you want to move, a way that you want to live, what you want to drive, where you want to be, the type of friends you want to have, and not as, like I said, not a standard about righteousness and all this kind of stuff. That's your choice, but this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a maskless version, but still, like, you got to really know what do you want and what you about and what do I want to be, and then you define that. See, so that it be clear for you. Now, what is the benefits of defining yourself before the moment? Now, again, remember, I'm always talking to you from my own experiences and different things, that I've been through and stuff like that. So in regards to personal, intimate relationships, defining who you are, the thing is to not fluctuate. See, and what the not fluctuating is going to do, and this is one of the major things about having a code and a standard, is it's going to keep you out of regret. See, isn't that wonderful? Having that standard will keep you out of regret. And it'll also keep you out of explaining things, because you're going to move the way you want to move. You're going to be saying the things that you mean. And so when you do that, there's no need to keep repeating yourself. I don't got to explain nothing. See? But when you do this, when you say that, do this, go there, come here, be there, all these different, I'm telling you from experience, when you're doing it like that, you got some explaining to do. Believe me, you're going to have to explain because of where you've been. and what's going on. And you just got shit to explain. So you got to be clear about what you want. Identify these things as a standard of existence, because if not, you're going to have a lot of chaos. See? And I know how things can happen. I know how you can get emotional, and you don't know what to do. See what I'm saying? Everything before you start walking in your real light, they always get the worst versions of you, man. And the very first ones get the worst because you're learning on their watch. See? All of these things you're learning not to do, you had to learn it with somebody. So that means somebody had to get lied to, cheated on, somebody had to get not picked up, somebody had to get mad, broken promises, somebody had to be waiting on you and never show up. You see what I'm saying? All kind of different things, which is cause and effect. See? Cause and effect is real, because you never know what type of tailspin or whirlwind you're not showing up or you not doing what you said you was going to do, put this person in. Especially promises about money, lodging, and food. See, you tell somebody you're going to do something with those three things, and then you renege without explanation, you never know what may happen. So, that's something that I see about regret, right? And that's a major thing. And this leads me to my next point as we defining all these things, but where you're going to stand with your word has to be important. See? Now, for me, not having a code and not having a standard in regards to my word has really severed a lot of relationships in the past. And not just me not keeping it always, but me not giving it and me not participating in things based off of that too. See? So it always comes back to that, And if you want your word to have any kind of value one way or the other, you have to do one thing. Keep it. One way or the other. Good, bad, or indifferent. See? You have to keep it. If you say it, you mean it. So you do your best not to say shit you don't mean. And how do you avoid saying stuff you don't mean? Awareness. Think about responding. Think about who you want to be in the moment. Because if you don't, you're going to react. And that's going to be emotional. And there's no telling what you may say. Definitely no telling what you may do in a situation like that. Depends on how you pushed. See? It all depends on how you pushed. Because pressure can either produce diamonds or it can bust pipes. See? It's going to be you to have to figure out, how that plays in on you. So you have to be mindful of those things, And again, I'm telling you from my own experience of not doing it. See? Being frivolous with my word, giving my word too soon, right? It sounds good. I say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do it. Then I get home and I think about it, and I'm like, oh no, that's a bad idea. I don't know why. I don't know why I agreed to do that. I'm definitely not doing that. See? And now where I failed even major, because there's been times for me where I didn't even bother to explain that. See? I just said, I'm not doing it and I'm not answering. Hmm? And what does that mean? That's cowardly, which is crazy for me, because people that know me, they know my background and how I move with certain things. Like, that's definitely not me, you know? Definitely not cowardly. So, but when it comes to this, that situation definitely was, right? When it comes to looking a woman in her eye and telling her exactly what I want to do, definitely been cowardly. See? Because it was emotional, convenience, whatever I needed to be. It's the problem with masks. See? And the longer you live, if you're fortunate, you get to evaluate it, assess it, and then create a new if you want to. Or you can just keep living emotional. It's just too volatile, when you're living emotionally like that. So that's the major thing that a standard is going to do. It's going to keep you out of regret, because you're going to be locked in with who you are, locked in with what you want to do. And that's going to always be something you don't have to explain. So you set your standard, and you just do your best to live by it. And remember this about it as I get ready to wrap up. Standard, once you start lying, right? This means that you will always have the ability to lie. Okay? You start stealing, You're going to always be able to be a thief. You're going to always be able to be a cheater, a manipulator, whatever the case may be. The thing that will, for where we at now is you choose not to be that now. But remember, it's just like any other addiction almost. There's going to be situations that come every day where you get a chance to lie again and steal again, manipulate again, cheat again, creep off again, whatever it is you do. You're going to get these different chances to do it. See? Every day, though. So that's why you don't hang your hat on it. If you're enlightened or you're aware or, you finally got some type of understanding, understanding, overstanding, whatever makes you feel better, you need to practice that every day. Because I can tell you exactly what a life looks like when you don't practice it every day. See, start falling short on your manifestations, start falling short on your meditation, rather, start falling short on the things you did to get where you at, and watch it all fall apart. And then you're going to find yourself living a life that you don't want to live, but you're choosing to live. And you say, well, I'm not choosing to live this life. I don't like this life. Every person is where they want to be. And if they're not, they're going to do the best they can to get out of there. And that's what I always close with, because that's the one thing that's one of the things that I'm definitely living actively, is everything in my life that I feel brings me this ease, or that I feel I do not really want. I don't want this. I'm working toward not having it. And guess what? The universe rewards positive energy and forward motion. So I don't even know how, but things is working out. All I know is what I've been eliminating and what I've been including. And that's been a code. That's been a solidness on what I want to be. And I'm in a uniformity in that around every aspect of my life. And every aspect is improving, believe me, right before your eyes. We don't share all the details, obviously, but I'm telling you, everything is getting better for me because of this. And I just encourage you to do the same so we can all grow and evolve and get where we want to be collectively as well. Everybody has to shine. Everybody now some will always shine brighter than others, individuality, uniqueness now. It's only one me forever. Not even my sons will beat me. But anyway, I appreciate everybody hanging in there with me. I got a little long-winded. I'll catch y'all at the next one. Remember, set your standard, evaluate yourself, know who you want to be before the moment happens. Write that stuff down. Sit down, write it down. You gotta just get moving. And once you get moving, it all comes together. All right? Peace.